Hi, this is Danny Gibbons, practical assessment number 1. This is my volunteer, Kate.
Hello.
Kate, you happy to be filmed?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. All right, welcome, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi, did you have any trouble finding the place?
Not at all. I mean, easy to find, but hard to park.
I know, we do have a little bit of a congested area, but round the corner, there's actually a free parking lot just round the corner.
Oh,
so
great to know.
it's good for next time. So have you been to counselling before? Do you know much about it?
Never.
Okay, so I better just inform you of my approach.
Yep.
So I believe in a person-centred approach to counselling, and that means that I think you're the expert in your own life. So I'm not going to give you advice or tell you what to do. I'm just going to help you to understand yourself better and to help you find goals and ways to achieve it and really unpack things with you so that you can make your own decisions to help yourself.
Sounds great.
Yeah? Okay, terrific. So I sent you the contract, and I know that you signed it, but it's important that we go through a few of the things together just to make sure if you've got any questions, we can unpack those too. So the first thing is about confidentiality. Now, everything that you say, anything I write, it's all treated as highly confidential, and your privacy is very important. There's only a few areas where this can be overridden, and those are if I consider that you were at the risk of harming yourself or someone else, I would have to disclose. Another disclosure area might be if your counselling records were requested by a court, if they were subpoenaed. And the third area would be if another party or agency was asking for your records and you'd given written permission for those to be shared. So
Okay.
if you moved on to another agency and
Yep.
you wanted to have some consistency, that's how we do that.
Okay.
All right, so basically our sessions are about 1 hour
Yes.
and they cost $120 a session, and we usually run those weekly for about 6 sessions. So, and at that point we'd look into whether we needed to continue, whether you wanted to continue, whether you'd achieved the goals. We'd have a sort of discussion about where to go from next, and then but that said, if you decided you wanted to end the counselling at any point, that's absolutely your right, and I just appreciate 48 hours notice so that I can fill the spot.
Sure.
So with cancellations, there's also within 48 hours, after 48 hours, it's fine. There's a 50% fee between 24 and 48 hours, and if you cancel within 24 hours, that's a full fee. Yeah, it's just so because I can't fill the spot in time. So I did mention the record keeping, keeping those notes. They're kept very securely, locked away, but they're actually to keep track of our progress.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening along the way, goals, and it means we can monitor them. They're stored privately and securely, and if you want to view them at any point, that's absolutely fine. They'll be kept for 7 years. That's the legal requirement, that they're kept within the space for 7 years.
Okay.
So if you wanted email or telephone consults, that's something we could arrange, but we'd have to pre-arrange that. So if you were overseas or if you were ill and you wanted to have your session one of those ways, we could look into that. But if you're in an emergency between sessions, then I'd recommend that you approach the appropriate emergency service. I've got a list of those on the contract, you might have seen them. And if there was a life-threatening situation, obviously OOO is your first point of contact.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So, did you have any questions about any of that?
No. Did they say on the phone today was a shorter session?
It is. So today's session is only going to be 20 minutes,
Okay.
and probably 15 from now,
Okay.
just to really get started, but normally they'd be a bit longer than that.
Okay.
So are you happy for me to take notes?
Yes.
Okay. Now that you know how we keep them
Yes.
and why. All right, so what brings you here?
Well, lately I've just been feeling a bit, overwhelmed. I work full time. I have 2 teenage children, a boy and a girl, 15 and 17. My husband works really long hours. He's an architect. and so I really take the brunt of the the housework and the children and things like that. And I started studying my CPA because it would really help me with with progressing at work.
Yeah.
And when I started it, I was just so motivated, and I just finished a unit, and I barely got through. I've really lost my motivation.
Yeah.
I feel like my kids are teens, they're going to be moving out soon. I want to spend quality time with them, but with everything going on, I'm just really stressed all the time. And I've only got 2 units to go of the CPA, but it starts in, I've only got 2 weeks off, and I just don't know if I can do it.
So it sounds like to me you're very stretched in all areas. So passions and home life and work life, and you're balancing a lot of balls in the air. It sounds like to me. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if I used to be able to balance them better, but now I feel like, I just don't really like feeling like I'm doing everything not that well. And, I don't want to go back to studying and not do well at that, or go back to studying and then, there's more tension and stuff in the house and I'm not spending as much time with the children, and yeah, I'm just not sure what to do.
And how do you think life would change if you did finish and you did the CPA? Like, how do you think your life would look after that?
After? I think great. I don't know, maybe, hopefully, maybe a promotion at work, who knows?
Okay.
And then, without the CPA, I'd just have so much more time. I'd be more relaxed around the children, less worried about things. I think, and I think that's one of the things of thinking, do I just not continue it? Because, I think, but after, great.
Okay, so how would you feel, do you think, if you actually left it? If you just gave it up and just left the whole thing behind, how would that sit?
I was so motivated to do it, and so I just don't know where that motivation's gone. I think I'd be a bit disappointed. I've already done so much, and then at work, it's like where I am is where I am.
Yeah.
And so I know the kids will be grown soon, and then this is. So I think I would be a bit disappointed if I gave it up.
So it sounds like to me, it's a short-term problem of trying to manage the time to complete it. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think so. Because talking to you, I think I realise it is something I still want to finish, even though I don't have the motivation I did. But I just don't want all those other areas of my life, especially my children, to suffer from it.
But have you considered that suffering or that taking from it might, as you said, it's not a long period of time.
No, I've still got to get through it.
That's
I'm a
true.
bit worried about that.
Yeah, understandably. It sounds like you don't want to take from the areas that you already have passions, and your family obviously is a huge priority for you.
Yes.
But on the other hand, is this something that will benefit your family? Is that something?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about how it benefits me, but I suppose if I'm happier, that's good for them. If I'm making more money at work and more, I suppose it does benefit them a little.
Okay, so given that you would feel disappointed if you weren't to complete it, to me it sounds like even though you've lost motivation, that might just be to do with the overwhelm that you're feeling with all of the stress surrounding it. And that perhaps if you were to find ways to manage that overwhelm and the time, that it might be something that you'd want to pursue, just because you'd be disappointed in yourself if you didn't. Is that am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, that sounds, I think you are, yes.
Okay, so given that as a goal to actually complete it, how about we look into some ways that we can take the pressure off in other areas so that you do have that time?
Sure.
All right. So let's have a think. What could it look like if you said, I'm going to continue it because I've done so much, and which is what you said.
Yes.
What are some ways you could take the pressure off, the burden off, the time stress off yourself?
I mean, I've always thought to myself I should get a cleaner.
Absolutely. That's a great
But,
idea.
you know, I'm not. I think communication of my needs, especially to my husband, is something that I might need to work on, because when I think about getting a cleaner, I think, well, I've always done it. What will he think? How will I approach him about that? It'll give me more time, but it'll cost money. So yes.
Okay. So a cleaner's one idea.
Yes.
You've got. What are some other ideas you can think of that might give you more time?
I mean, my kids are older now, so we don't live too far from school. They could be walking home from school.
Yeah. Okay.
My daughter plays, you know, netball on a Tuesday night, and why I hate to ask people things because I just think, oh, I should be doing it. There is other people in her team, and I'm sure another parent could pick her up and drop her there. You know, again, I might feel I'm missing out on some time with them, but maybe I can, when I finish, I can start watching her again and repay the favours to some of those people.
Yeah, I think that as would you if your friend was in this situation and they were trying to finish something, would you feel like it was okay to ask? Would you want them to ask?
Oh,
you?
of course, I would want. I'd be happy to help.
Okay, so you see, it's not an unreasonable.
Yes,
ask
yes,
when
I
you put
see.
it- yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well that's another area that you can think about. Are there any other ways you could make things a bit easier on yourself?
I mean, I could think about talking to my boss about
Okay.
asking for maybe a little reduced hours just while I finished, or I don't know, maybe half a day off every couple of weeks. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would hate for her to think that I was like not committed to the job or letting the team down or anything like that.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of areas where you're worried about how other people are going to view you when you try and make that time. We might look into that if that's all right. Maybe in the next few weeks, explore that side of things. Does that sound like something you'd want to look into? Not right now, but look into it further down the track.
I mean, I hadn't really thought about it, but when you said, how would you feel if someone else asked you that, I would be very fine with that and happy to help.
Okay, so for now, let's have a think about maybe one or two of those options. Maybe the cleaner, you've mentioned the communicating to your husband, the kids walking or getting rides with friends, or reducing your hours while studying. Maybe which two of those they resonate the most as something you could action quite quickly and feel comfortable with?
I think I'm apprehensive to talk to my husband, but I think the cleaner is a good idea, and it starts on that communication. And I think my kids walking, like maybe it doesn't have to be every day. Maybe it can be, 3 days a week. I don't have to rush back to them, which means that I don't have to do the work I've missed at work at home and frees up time. So I think those two to start with.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's just briefly outline some of the pros and cons.
Okay.
So what are some of the pros of having a cleaner?
Oh, just saves time. And just that mental load of thinking, when will I do it? You've got to think, oh, it's the weekend, I want to watch netball, I want to do this, when am I going to fit in the cleaning? Yeah.
Okay, so clearing the mental load, having the pressure off a little bit. What's a downside of the cleaning?
The money, and I also think, no one cleans quite like you do, so maybe you got to give that away a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of letting go on that one. Yeah, okay.
And like you said, maybe it's just for now, or maybe I'll really like it.
Maybe, you don't know how it's going to feel. All right, so and okay, so we've had a look at the pros and cons of that one. What about with the kids walking? What would be a benefit other than maybe do you think there might be benefits outside of giving you more time?
Oh yeah, I mean, walking for them is great. A bit of active transport is great. It's great for teenagers.
Yeah.
It's actually something I quite value. When I was working part-time and the kids were little, I would walk them to school.
Okay, so
Yeah.
physically active. Are there any
Yeah.
other benefits you could think for them, or?
Yeah, the mental health of it. If my daughter went to netball, she's that's socializing. Her friends, she'd probably love it.
That
So,
sounds
yes.
really quite positive.
Yeah.
Are there any negatives you can foresee
Oh,
with
I
that?
can hear the whinging already. Like the kids are used to not having you just think, oh, another battle, another thing to say. Oh, the other mums do this, or but teenagers.
And given their age and stage, do you think that sort of whinging that other mums doing things, do you think that might be something that they should look into, or do you think it's something that you want to be the one doing these things?
Oh, I mean, I want to be a good mum. So it really gets me when they say, like, Blau's mum picks me up, or, I've always been doing it. So, change is always tricky, but, I know it's good for them and good for me, probably.
Okay, so out of those two,
Yep.
which one do you think, let's say to action between now and our next session, which one do you think the pros outweigh the cons, and you could do to give yourself a bit more time?
That's a good one, because both of them, I think for both of them, interestingly, it's actually the communicating of it. The communicating with my husband or the communicating with my kids to do that. I think I'll action the cleaner first.
Okay, so how about if you're going to action the cleaner between now and next week,
Yeah.
how about next session we look into that communication
Yeah.
and see how you're feeling about that?
How I went about, even because I think the first step is sitting down and talking to my husband about how overwhelmed I feel, and that's why I'm suggesting a cleaner, because in 20 years of marriage I've always done the cleaning.
Yeah, and we can look into communication strategies. We can look into ways to talk to the children as well. We can look into all of those things in our next session.
Okay.
So I
Because
think
I've got 2 weeks before the next one starts.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think look, we have to finish up quite soon. We've got only got a few minutes left.
Okay.
But I think that haven't you come so far in this such short session? You've made a decision about whether you want to continue or not, and you've already come up with a way to action it in a way that's going to work for you to start finding that time.
Yes, thank you.
So good. Oh well, this is you. This is all you. So the decision we've made is to continue the course.
Yeah.
And to give yourself a little bit of time, starting with the idea of the cleaner, and working towards communication for other areas, and even in that area communicating to your husband. Maybe looking into some expectations on yourself and way other people view you. You seem to have mentioned a few times how you don't want to be seen in certain ways. So we could look into that if that's a future goal you want to explore.
Yes.
But I think this has been a great start. You've already come up with so many great ideas. So let's have a look. Yeah. So in our counselling plan, we'll have a look at communication, and we'll look at the effective forms of communication, and maybe how other people are viewing you and how you feel about what you should be. You mentioned that a few times, so we could look into that sort of expectation as well.
Okay.
Does that sound like it's work for you?
Yeah.
All right. And what I thought we might do in terms of monitoring the progress we can start to unpack things and maybe look at the end of each session how far we've gone, each session a little ending, and then after that maybe we can have, after the 6 sessions, we might do a bit of a feedback form just to see how things have gone, what's changed, how things have worked out.
Okay.
So we'll have little check-ins each session, the beginning and the end, and then a big check-in after the 6 weeks. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, love to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, this is my self-assessment of the practical that I did. These are my notes, the counselling notes I took during the session. They're quite detailed, and this is my counselling plan that I did as well. So the notes that I took during the session were that the goal was to complete the CPA without too much overwhelm or losing out in other areas. And the topics we discussed were how the client felt overwhelmed, explaining with her teens, her husband's work hours, full-time work, studying, and having 2 units left to complete. She'd lost motivation. And the other topics we discussed were communication and expectation and finding more time. So the outcome we had there was identifying ways to restructure time. So I guided the client to come up with some ways that she could restructure her time, and some of the ways that she came up with were a cleaner, communication of her needs to her husband, kids walking or getting rides with friends, reducing hours while studying. So we did a pros and cons list for we chose 2 only of those, and did a pros and cons for those 2 that she chose. And for example, the cleaner, I took notes that she said a pro would be her mental load, as well as the cleaning being done, her mental load would be reduced. And the negative would be the money, or the idea of letting go of that role that she's always played. So in the next session, we decided that we look into the communication of her needs, because it seemed to come up a few times, and also checking in on her motivation levels. So that's that. Then afterwards, I did the counselling template. She had no referrals or special needs or safety or reporting. Her own identified priorities were communication, time management, completing the CPA. Other client requirements that I observed were other people's perceptions and the should, and not letting people down. She sort of mentioned that a few times, so unpacking that would be something to look into. The goals we have were communication about needs, restructuring life to fit in the study for completion, because she did underneath that want to complete it. And we decided on monitoring with weekly check-ins, and at the 6-week mark, a feedback form. So she agreed to those check-ins, and the feedback form at the end. Just checking what I have had to do. So I think I did well with taking notes without disrupting the session and showing attentive behaviours. I think what didn't work as well, I think I also I did everything on the list, I think, this time. I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. Yeah, I think I got everything. What didn't work well, maybe because of so many things on the list and it being such a small amount of time to do all of those things, I guess I felt it was a bit rushed. I felt like it didn't feel very natural, because you wouldn't do that in a real counselling session. So I hope it didn't come across that it was rushed, but it felt like that to me. I think something that I should have done differently would be perhaps to, I did do the things on the list, but sometimes they were out of order. So it was more like they came up at different times. So the client mentioned something, or but it didn't happen in exactly the order that it's said in the checklist. I'm not sure if that is a problem or not, because they did all happen, and it happened more organically, I guess, in that way. Some areas that I need to develop are probably the counselling plan, making sure I've got everything in the right sections, and knowing how much detail to put in there. I sort of wasn't sure exactly how many notes to take or how detailed to make them. So that's something I guess I could develop and work on, is to know exactly what's required there. How I could go about developing, I think it's just practice. I think it's just the more you do of these, the easier it becomes. And I guess all the feedback as well that I'll get from you about how my notes were, that would help me to know, oh, okay, that's right, or I did too much or too little, or I didn't do that in exactly the right section. That would be very helpful to know. Thank you.